Okay, welcome to chapter 16. Here we're going to introduce the perfect tense. This is the last tense that we're going to study, although there is another mood. But we really are getting to the end of the forms that you have to memorize, so that should be good news. Duff on the first page here on 178 discusses the meaning of the perfect has to do with completion. So, and in the top of page 179, he discusses the way we've talked about that the present tense and the imperfect tense convey this sense of ongoing action. The aorist is the tense we use when we just want to say, well, whatever, I don't really care about ongoing or not. It just happened, or it happened. No, aorist is always past, so it happened, but then we're moving on. That's not the important part. Perfect is the idea of it happened in the past, it's done, but the fact that it got done has implications for today. If you think about, I really like what he says on the top of page 179. Where he says, where he talks about the action is now completed. I think you can think of the perfect tense as the check mark on your to-do list. It's done. And we're talking about it now because it has impact in the present, but the important part of it is it's done. And so his past event with present effect is definitely the traditional way of describing the perfect tense. Now, translating it is not always easy, and he points that out on page 178. We have just as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, and that it is written in this perfect tense has the sense of done. And notice that it's actually the perfect tense that is used in John 19:30, where Jesus says, tetelestai, it is finished. So done, check it off my list, it's completed. And now we can move forward knowing that this is done. But we can also translate it with an English past tense. So the one who does not believe in God has made him a liar because he has not believed in the testimony which God has testified concerning his son. So partway down, Mark 1:2, this it is written could be translated either it has been written, it happened in the past, or it is written. That kind of emphasizes the fact that it was done in the past and it continues to be done. And so the way of translating that is gonna change in English. And so on the top of page 179, Duff gives you there a table of everything you've learned, especially the aspect. So the Greek present tense happens in the present. That's in the indicative. Remember, participles are a different story. And the aspect of the present tense is in process or maybe undefined. So in English, we translate it, I am untying, or I untie for Luo. In the future tense, it's also undefined. I will untie. The imperfect, though, is in the past, but with an emphasis on process. I was untying. The aorist is the past, but undefined. I untied. And the perfect in both the present and the can has an effect on both the present and the past. And the aspect is this sense of completion. I have untied. So try I have and then the verb first. And then you might put something else in parentheses if you want to, if you think that in context it's really emphasizing the present sense of it's been done, just like it is written. Now the forms, I'm going to take you to our chart of Leluco. And here we have the end of this chart that we're filling in. Note that there's one infinitive that we haven't seen yet, and we have a subjunctive present and a subjunctive aorist that we're going to see, and we have third person imperatives that we're going to see. Otherwise, the rest of this is going to stay blank. So again, I want to encourage you that you really are almost there. We're not going to look at any perfect imperative verbs, and I'm gonna mention the two perfect infinitives, but they are not going to come up very much. The important thing, though, is the perfect tense in the indicative and the participle. So you see that what happens in the perfect tense is we have this reduplication. The perfect tense takes the first consonant and doubles it and adds usually the epsilon. Now, as you can imagine, that's going to cause issues sometimes. Those are described on page 180. If you have a consonant that has kind of an H to it, like a key, a phi, or a theta, it's going to get reduplicated without the H sound. So a key is going to get reduplicated to a kappa. Phi is going to get reduplicated to a P. And a theta is going to get reduplicated to a tau. If you have a verb that starts with a consonant that has an S sound, so sigma or zeta or xi, then it's going to reduplicate like normal, but that first letter is normally going to drop off. And when it starts with a vowel, the vowel's going to lengthen. So in both of those cases, it's going to look very similar to one of the past tenses in the indicative, either the imperfect or the aorist. However, that's only at the beginning of the word that it would look similar. Normally, you're going to see this reduplication and you're right away going to think, oh, right, perfect tense. And so it's not difficult. But even if the beginning is a little bit confusing, the ending is going to straighten you out, because in the endings, in the active, we have this kappa all the way down. So the kappa for the infinitive, the kappa for the indicative, and the kappa for the participle, it's always there. The endings in the active are very similar to the aorist endings: leluka, lelukas, leluken, lelukamen, lelukate, and then this one's a little bit different, lelukasin. And then in the passive, we have simply the endings from the middle passive endings way over here. It's the same. And by the way, in the perfect tense, the middle and passive forms are the same, just like in the present and the imperfect tense. The endings are going to be these endings from the present middle passive, but without the connecting omicron. So we get lelumai, no omai, just lelumai, lelusai, lelutai, lelumetha, leluste, leluntai. And so that's going to be your other clue if the reduplication isn't complete, if the reduplication doesn't allow you to recognize the perfect easily. This ending, middle passive present tense ending, just stuck right on the stem with no connecting vowel, no sigma, none of the other things we've seen, is going to be your clue that this is a perfect passive, or middle passive rather. Let's look at let's just briefly look at the infinitives because we're up at the top of the chart. Lelukenai, lelustai. So again, we have the middle passive present tense ending added with no vowel. And then lelukenai has the alpha iota ending, just like the aorist active does. But now let's look at the participles. The participle in the masculine is lelukos. Again, we have kappas always in the present passive. And we have lelukos, lelukuia, lelukos. So lelukos is going to decline like a second declension adjective, and the genitive, a second declension noun, and the genitive is going to be lelukotos. Notice that there's no nu there. Here we have luon, luontos, but here we have lelukos, lelukotos, no nu. Of course, the neuter is going to be similar, lelukos in the nominative, but then lelukotos in the genitive, just like the masculine one. And then the only other difficult one is the dative plural. We never quite know what the dative plural is going to do, but here what it does is lelukosin, and that's the ending. Now the feminine goes its own way, so it's lelukuia, and in the genitive it's lelukuias. These endings, alpha and then alpha sigma, should make you think of first declension feminine participles in the perfect tense are going to, and active voice are going to decline like first person, like first declension feminine nouns. There you go. And then we have the middle passive. Again, here we have the reduplication and just the ending from the present middle passive. And so no connecting vowel, no omenos, but just les luminos, les lumine, les luminon, and then the genitive les luminou, les lumines, les luminou, and the rest is going to be regular. You don't even need the dative plural because it's all going to be very regular there. That's it. Those are the forms of the perfect tense. Sorry. I do want to mention one more thing, and that is the perfect tense on page 181 points out that this is actually a change to the stem. And that means that just like the epsilon augment for tense, it's going to get added after any prefixes. So if you see there in the middle of page 181, you're going to get pepoyeka and teteretai. That's actually not what I was looking for. Oh, there at the very top of the page, we have apoluo. And then if we're going to reduplicate that, we take off the apo and we reduplicate the luo. So we get apoleluca. So let's take a minute take a look at practice 16.2. Let's just go through those. Hold on, I'll stop that for a minute. Okay, sorry, I put a cough drop in my mouth and hopefully that's going to help me not cough. I hope it's not too annoying when I talk. Greek is taking a lot of talking from me, so my voice isn't always quite up to it. All right, so practice 16.2, number 1 is memiseken. Notice the reduplication. So when you see that consonant epsilon, you should immediately think reduplication and then ask yourself, do I know a verb like miseo? And you do. And so here the epsilon in the stem has lengthened to eta in front of the kappa. But we have the kappa. So with the reduplication and the kappa, you know that this is a perfect tense. The ending tells you that it's the indicative and it's the active voice, and the ken tells you it's third person singular. Number 2 is kekolumenus. Now the menus ending should immediately make you think participle. The reduplication at the beginning tells you that it's a perfect participle. The menus should also immediately make you think middle passive. It's just like the ending in the present middle passive. And so now all we have to do is figure out what the Omicron upsilon sigma ending tells you about gender number case. And in this case, it's accusative plural of the masculine form. Now, I wanted to point out that Duff has underlined the passive here when he marks it as passive middle. And the reason he's done that is because koluo is not a deponent verb. And he assumes that if a verb is not deponent and it uses a middle passive form, that it's immediately a passive meaning. And I would caution you against assuming that. Just know that this is middle passive. And when you go to translate it, you're going to try some sort of a middle translation. And if that doesn't work, then you're going to use a passive translation. Number 3 is pepropheuteutai. We have the reduplication at the beginning, and we have this ending that looks like a present tense middle passive, but that doesn't have a connecting vowel. And so now we're thinking middle passive of the perfect tense in the indicative, and this is the third person singular ending. Number 4 is pefile kasin. Notice that here we have the phi that reduplicates as a p. The h drops out. So the verb is phileo. Again, we have the reduplication and the kappa and the asin ending that tells us that it's indicative, perfect, active, third person plural. Then we have number 5 is bebleptai from the verb blepo, We have the reduplication and the present tense middle passive ending with no connecting vowel. So this is an indicative, perfect, middle passive, third person singular. And then we have apolelumenen. Notice the reduplication that happens in between the prefix and the stem. So it's apoluo, and we have the participle ending connected without any vowel. So this is a participle, perfect, middle passive, and this is feminine accusative singular. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions. I think we'll probably do the halfway practice together. That's my plan at the moment anyway. See you later.